Hello you guys, and welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Sarah, and today we're in Jake's classroom working on getting set up for the start of the school year. And I'm so excited to share a timeline display that we're doing for the Ancient World History classroom, but there's also versions for both early American history, typically taught at the 7th grade level, as well as a more modern American history taught at the 8th grade level. Now, one of the biggest challenges with teaching social studies is that sometimes it can be really tough for our students to grasp how these different units and regions and time periods connect to one another and relate to one another. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is with a timeline, and a lot of textbooks, for instance, have timelines within individual sections, but they don't have timelines that connect all together to know when certain civilizations are happening or when certain events happen. Oftentimes we go through history in more of a linear way, but at the same time, it's not like this event starts and then this event stops, but then the next event starts. It's not nice and organized that way. It's messy. One region starts and is still going on while another region also has events happening. It's not really clear sometimes. It can also be tough for our students to understand or grasp how long certain periods of time are. For instance, from an ancient civilizations perspective, it's tough to be able to compare and contrast and know which region was the longest, which time period was the shortest. And when you don't have a clear visual to help you do that, it's really tough. So we wanted to put together some sort of resource that could help students compare these civilizations and know which civilizations happened when. So it's kind of a combined thing. There is a timeline piece, and we're going to be setting this up back here on this wall, so you'll be able to see the process of it. But basically the pieces of the timeline get added together, and you can see how there's the different civilizations kind of all stacked on top of each other because there is a lot of overlap about when these exist. So we're going to assemble this. We also have some posters with actual historical photographs that we're going to be displaying around it as well, just to help students visualize it. I think a lot of our students are visual learners, so we're hopeful that these posters will be able to help our students understand what's going on in these different situations and how they connect. Anyway, let's start making the poster. I can't wait to show you what it looks like. So you can take a look at the completed timeline, but we are not fully done yet. The next step is hanging up the posters. Now, one thing I didn't mention before, I do recommend printing these out in color because everything's color coded. The color on the posters corresponds with the color on the timeline. So it makes it a little easier for students to connect the dots. Also, when you're hanging up the timeline, I would recommend cutting off the strip along the left side of the paper. That's the only strip you have to cut off, and it will allow you to perfectly align all of the other sections. And everything's measured out so like the text is centered and the dates match up. But let's go ahead and hang up the posters. Alright guys, the timeline and the posters are displayed. I am obsessed with this. I think it's going to be really cool for the kids to help visualize it. It even helps me as a history person. It even helps me to have the different regions visualized in terms of how long of a time period that particular civilization lived. I also love to, yes, there is a little extra space down here, but it really helps students grasp, okay, we're currently in, the 2000s time period, since this is organized every 500-year block, so we're still pretty close to 2000. And it allows them to kind of see where they fit in and to think, wow, in recent times, there's not that much that's happened when we really visualize the whole thing. And to be honest, it does cut off prehistory. I mean, this timeline would have been going forever and need the whole school and more to actually really convey it. So I think this can be really helpful for our students for practical purposes. You do have some editing power if you wanted to edit this yourself, specifically the blocks, because one thing that is tricky, and if you teach ancient civilizations, I'm sure you know this, the dates all vary. We don't know the exact set in stone dates that everyone agrees on. As we were actually making this, we consulted 8 different sources several different textbooks, several different online sources that were credible, 8 different sources, and there was definitely disagreement on every single civilization. So we really tried to put the best dates together to make this as accurate as possible, but you can actually edit the length of the bars if you wanted to classify it differently, or maybe if your particular textbook classifies things differently. Also, with any of the sets, in case you're wondering, if a student has a question about a certain picture, all of the picture details are included. So you know where as well as what it's a picture of, just so it makes it easier to understand and explain. And of course, even though we have them all put together for you, technically this is totally something you could combine yourself or make yourself. Maybe you already have posters for the different civilizations and could benefit from adding the timeline piece. Again, it's your classroom, so however you feel like it's best, but I think that this is going to be something that really helps students this year. So that about wraps it up here. Let me know any of your questions or comments below, and I hope you have a wonderful school year. We've got lots more content coming soon. Bye.